We have heard the songs be sang for as long as we've been alive. Most of the football greats have passed through Parkhead's gates just to play football the Glasgow Celtic way. And that's a huge part of the reason that myself and all the other Celtic fans around the world love Ange Postecoglu, love the style of football that we're starting to play, and love the squad that we've built. Modern football in this current age that we're in at the moment is all about talent ID, it's all about key metrics, it's all about finding up and coming talent and moving it on up the food chain, up the transfer market, as it were, and establishing your own club in that mold of being a European powerhouse. And a lot of clubs try and do this just with sheer money and infrastructure or whatever. But Celtic, as we've all known as Celtic fans, number one, what a huge club it is and the potential we've got on the world stage if managed and organised correctly. Now, the style that Ange has brought to the club, I don't think anyone would have expected upon his arrival. And I don't think it was even a style of football fans would have been openly asking for, because this, when you're really at the cutting edge of football tactics, every kind of generation that we've had over the years, it's not something people know to expect. It's a big part of the reason that it is innovative, is because it's new. It's taking a new approach on old ideas and throwing them in the bin, or just spitting in the face of them and letting the left back be the main playmaker across the pitch, or a few other bits and pieces that we'll get into. So for me, I love studying football. I'm a coach. I've got a YouTube channel, of course, talking about all the metrics across world football and all that kind of stuff as well. And I love midfield. For me, is where football games are always won and lost. And we can make arguments for all areas of the pitch and how important they are, of course, but midfield is really where my eye is always drawn, where my heart really is, and where I think the best teams really are kind of built from, And the Celtic midfield that we've come to know over this season in particular, obviously we've got some data, we've got some memories, and we've seen some progress from last season coming into now for some of the newer guys, and maybe some of the veterans of the squad. Obviously, we've got a wee bit of a longer history with, but by and large, we're only just starting to get to know this midfield really now. And I've been kind of preparing this video for a little while with the main viewpoint of discussing Reo Hatate. But since then, we've got Tomoki Iwata, or Tomo, as the lads in training are calling him, and I think we're all going to start calling him. We've got Tomo firmly coming into the team. We've got the second coming of Matt O'Reilly. We've got the form that no one's seen coming from Aaron Mooy to add into this equation. Never mind guys that just score goals off the bench and get involved like David Turnbull. So the midfield at Celtic at the moment, there's a lot of interesting pieces going on, and there's a lot of, I believe, misconceptions on how the team is built, what the kind of priority and what the role is of some of these guys in here. So I look forward to going through that in the video today. What I want from you guys in the comment section is tell me where I'm right and wrong, or anything that I've overlooked that you would add in, or vice versa. Maybe even if I've shown you something perhaps that you never thought of or considered before. So I want to see all that kind of stuff in the comment section of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, of course. We were recently featured on the Old Firm fan debate on the Overlap, and that's down to all the support from you guys in the community. So thanks very much. Your support's so appreciated, and with your help, of course, we can grow the channel and do more and more content like this, where we can really get stuck into the nitty gritty and all that good stuff, Reo Hatate is Celtic's most important midfielder for me. He's a guy that can frustrate you quite easily, and if you watch his games, particularly over the beginning of the season, he was quite liable for getting his pocket picked in possession, taking too much time on the ball, and maybe just going for glory a little bit too often, more than he should. But for me, I've been to a lot of Celtic games this season. After going to watch Celtic play Real Madrid in the first game of the Champions League, I feel from that point onwards, there's been a real turn in Hatate mentally. And, me and Declan and everyone that's come on the flagship podcast, I mention this as often as I can, but it really did feel like he was learning from a great really on the pitch. And that's why I'm always calling him the Japanese Modric. And if you look at the way he plays for us, he does facilitate, he does play in the same position geographically on the pitch, where he's looking to get on the ball around this zone of the pitch here. And whether it's in transition, whether, the other team started to attack us and the attacks broke down, and he's carried the ball and he's looking to play guys into space or whatever, or whether it's in the build-up. Because like we see with Celtic, particularly when we're at home, we're always looking to actually get Reo Hatate into this pocket of space here out in left back. And the guys in the team do a great job of, making that space happen with the rotation that we always see with Taylor tucking inside when the ball's coming out from the goalkeeper to intercept the ball and play in this little box here with Callum McGregor. Now, when we see this little box get made in midfield, this is really important because what this does is it gives us a little shield on the halfway line where if the play does break down here, if Taylor's going to go forward in support, it will be McGregor along with Starfelt and Carter Vickers. They can get back on the ball and are always looking to play us out into space, okay? But Hatate is always on the move, okay? And if you watch Celtic all season long, you'll see McGregor and Reo will move horizontally across the pitch to always catch up with the ball and keep the play rolling. And whoever's playing in the O'Reilly role or the Aaron Mooy role here is always trying to keep on the last line of defence to be that final link-up play, either to any of the strikers, maybe somebody like Greg Taylor or Daizen Maeda coming in at the back post. Now, this horizontal movement that we see from Reo and McGregor all game long, once we've got Taylor into the midfield, and that's a big thing to note here. We don't always get Taylor into the midfield. Maybe sometimes Alistair Johnson will come in here and build that little box for us, but quite often, if either the play transitions too quickly, maybe there's a formidable winger out here that Taylor's having to contend with in a defensive capacity. But in those cases where we get Reo in the central midfield position here, he is so dynamic at going in and beyond. Because what we see so often, whether it's at Parkhead or whether it's at any other stadium, we generally will see the opposition bank in and make things really tight and congested spaces. And we've seen this against Motherwell as well. But where Hatate really excels for me is that he will get into this position here. He will play a 1-2 and he will go beyond and he will get in between the lines himself to try and get on the end of something or to play a cross off or whatever. And that ability to get stuck in here, as well as for me, early season, it cannot be understated enough. The recovery runs that Reo Hatate makes to help us in possession. Now, it may not always be the guy that wins the ball, but if the other team do break on us and hit on the counter-attack with a long ball, if we are able to get the ball back, Reo Hatate is normally quite often one of the guys that's first to get on the ball and get the ball back into an attacking position for us and keep the play going. And he's got a huge engine for covering this whole area of the pitch here from left to right. Now, you might think a little bit of this is overstated, okay? Now, as we've seen recently, Tomo has come into the Celtic midfield. Now, in the couple of matches we've seen with Iwata and McGregor, I'm thinking the game before Motherwell, Kilmarnock it was, we've seen a bit more trying to keep it the same as normal. So what I mean by that is Matt O'Reilly was on the right-hand side of the midfield and he was doing that kind of pressing, attacking midfielder, Kevin De Bruyne kind of role, which he's done very, very well for us in his best periods of form, which is great. And we've seen much more of either Iwata coming out onto the left or at times McGregor. Now, one of my kind of bugbears when I listen to everyone else, and there's a lot of fantastic people that I listen to, of course, across the Celtic community, is hearing people say double pivot or thinking that Iwata and McGregor here somehow changes the dynamic that we've seen happen with Reo and McGregor. Number one, we definitely see McGregor and Iwata moving horizontally across the pitch like we've seen before, okay? But for me, what we're seeing a little bit here, if you do see there's a wee bit more of they can take turns between this pair because I think you trust Iwata defensively to recover. And I know I was giving some praise earlier to Hatate recovery runs, but Iwata is of course much more sound defensively, and Hatate does get much more advanced, and subsequently then you're asking McGregor to not take his turn ever because you can't rely that Reo is going to play as deep and let McGregor do such a job, if that makes sense. So it's more that Iwata can actually do much more of what McGregor can do, and we get two guys that are much more of a contemporary with one another. Now, I think part of the problem that we've seen against Motherwell is that we didn't have any of these guys, in particular McGregor, going in and beyond the defence like we've seen with Reo Hatate over this season. McGregor gets his goal, of course, with a long-range shot from around here, and he did get in and amongst these kind of areas of the pitch much, much more than what he usually does. But against Motherwell, he was on the right side of midfield and O'Reilly was on the left. And it felt like O'Reilly actually really enjoyed being on that side of the pitch and having the kind of support that's more often over here. Obviously, Jota didn't play since we've had Iwata in the team. And Haksabanovic and Daizen Maeda, over the last two matches, have really struggled to really nail in some form of their own. And I think with Haksabanovic in particular, not having that midfielder that will go in and beyond, because very often what we see with Haksabanovic was he was going to be coming back inside to the pitch and then he's looking for link-up play. Alistair Johnson would go on the overlap and that ball's always on for him. But if you look at all the good goals we have where we're really getting in amongst the box, we have a massive overload. We've got lots of options, and that's the best way to counteract these deep banks, because when teams are going to bank in so so tight and so deep, there is no space to play in, and it means every pass really needs to come off. Now, there's always great opportunity with guys like Kyogo and Dyson that they can get on the end of something if the ball was to ricochet around, and they can just make something happen with a bit of luck and a bit of work ethic going in their favour. But I think at the weekend, we didn't really have anyone additionally coming in. Like, Taylor didn't really get too far advanced in this game, I don't think. Iwata didn't really get too far, didn't really get into the final third for me. And I say McGregor, I don't think I've really ever seen him in the final third. And I really mean in the box, in this game, maybe once at a push, So I do feel that we really missed him a lot at the weekend, because just not having that extra body in there to really help break up the lines then just causes an extra bit of chaos, causes an extra bit of problems where our guys can get a better delivery against, or just another goal scoring opportunity that the now, because, or the weekend, if you look at the Motherwell game, we're only attacking with like these three guys into the box against a whole Motherwell, like two banks of four, basically. Just waiting for Van Veen and his other pal to go and counter-attack on us. Now, if you listen to the manager's comments, he actually praises Tomoki Iwata's ability to cover area on the pitch and to actually go and support. And he says the best is yet to come. And when I hear that coming from the manager, I don't hear that we're going to get a difference in midfield. I don't think we're going to get any different sort of makeup or construction of the players, their positions on the pitch, and basically their role. But I think what the manager probably sees in Iwata, beyond the Reo Hatate, he has had some links for the summer away, and who knows what the injury status is with him at the moment, really. But I do think that if we have Iwata and the team flourish the way that the manager believes in the manager's midfield that the manager has designed, I don't think anything changes to what we've seen. But like I've said already, I think what we get is much more of a contemporary. And with time and with adjustment, if you remember early season, Matt O'Reilly's been played in lots of different positions in this midfield, and it's quite clearly a whole different set of instructions, a whole different set of priorities and objectives for every position in Ange Postecoglu's starting 11. And I think it'll take another game or two for McGregor to get used to the new remit with having Tomo next to him here. Now, will Reo Hatate come back in? He probably will before the season's out when he's fit and available. And I think we'll see it all go back to type. But for me, Tomoki Iwata is probably going to be the catalyst to the complete Ange Postecoglu midfield for next season in European football and domestically, because having people that are more capable of doing more jobs in a game where you might be asked to defend a lot more and have to transition more regularly, maybe that set of attributes that Iwata has might be more useful to us. But like I said, I don't think that actually changes in principle the midfield at all whatsoever. If you put Reo Hatate in these positions, I don't think it's a different Celtic midfield whatsoever. We just see a little bit more of, they take their turn. Sometimes McGregor went forward and supported. Sometimes McGregor sat and Iwata would get into these kind of territories and look to have some link-up play and get some passes on himself. And that alteration of who's sitting and who's going to go and attack adds another dimension, adds another headache into opposition teams that are going to come across and play us with. When you add in Greg Taylor, inverted fullback, into this, and then when you add in Dyson Maeda, the Duracell bunny that never stops, and Haksabanovic and Jota and Kyogo, all these high energy players on the front line, when you've got that frantic front line and this extremely busy and complicated middle of the pitch that, if you're the opposition trying to deal with it, who's man, what space, what shape, who's important to watch here, who's on the ball, where's the space, it's such a headache of a team to play against. And then really what we've got left is obviously Carter Vickers and Starfelt patrolling the halfway line, and Alistair Johnson's just an amazing shift of a right back up here as well, just giving us a bit of a permanent kind of structure here. So I don't think anything changes with Iwata coming in. It's just more of a development and an evolution in the midfield. Matt O'Reilly is going to go on to become one of our biggest match winners in this final stage of the season. The attacking midfielder for me has been one of our hottest prospects at the squad, and when he first burst onto the team in that Kevin De Bruyne pressing role in the Ange Postecoglu team, we couldn't believe what an amazing talent that we'd unearthed. His form obviously dipped mid-season. It took him a while to get on the score sheet, having to fill in for Callum McGregor, who was injured. But now, with Iwata in the team, and even when O'Reilly's in the team, we've now seen the second coming of Matt O'Reilly. He's getting back into the box again. He's scoring goals. He's making things happen. And a confident and fit Matt O'Reilly in a Celtic midfield and a Celtic team here that's built to put him in the final third, that's built to put him in the creative positions, to take the shots from edge of the box, to play the final pass, to be the big target man that could get on the end of a cross from one of the wingers or one of the fullbacks. I think Matt O'Reilly's got the makings of having a fantastic end to the season. And for me, he's going to be a player that I watch with a really keen eye, not only coming into the semi-final, but the final run-in of the season itself. He's been a hugely impressive player for us, and I think he'll want to finish the season off with a real bang. Now, for how exciting the Celtic midfield is at the moment, and for how much depth we've got there, we've not even really brought in Aaron Mooy into this equation today, because I think Matt O'Reilly is, they both kind of do the same job, and O'Reilly very much now is the man in form, and we've kind of seen what we get from Aaron Mooy. But with Aaron Mooy in mind, and probably David Turnbull, who we've not mentioned really in this breakdown either, we don't have anyone, in my opinion, in this squad that is a genuine elite European level box to box, does it all, Swiss Army knife midfielder. Now, we've got a lot of guys that, like Iwata, McGregor, O'Reilly, and Reo, if you can put more into this, they're all they're all quite well rounded, and they all have, different strengths and weaknesses, of course. But for me, we missed out on a few targets in this kind of mold last summer, particularly from Spain and from Europe. So I'll be very interested to see what midfielder. We need to bring in another midfielder in this window here to give us another dimension, to give us more competition, to increase the quality in the squad, and to probably take up some of the room that's currently carried by a bit of dead weight in the squad. So I think we need a genuine, absolute ultra raw prospect of a box-to-box midfielder. I remember a number of years ago we were linked to a midfielder called Jose Cifuentes from Ecuador, and it never materialised. He actually was almost going to go to the City Football Group as well, but he couldn't get work permits because he didn't have any international credentials. So he ended up moving to LAFC in America, and now he's an Ecuador international. He's going to be a free agent this summer, or in this December. His contract's up soon, basically, and he now qualifies for a work permit. So I don't know if he quite fits the Ange style, but he's very much a very exciting box-to-box midfielder. So I would like to see someone in that kind of Cifuentes kind of mold, real dynamic box-to-box, real high energy box-to-box. I can't say box-to-box enough. And as well, potentially, depending on how some of the different pieces move around the transfer market, Haksabanovic fancies himself as a midfielder. And if you watch his appearances for Montenegro, he's quite tidy in midfield. And I can see him, maybe Haksabanovic would be a wee bit better of a, I don't know about better, but a different replacement for Reo Hatate when he's out, because I think he might get something similar out of Haksabanovic like we've seen. Because Hatate, like I showed on the tactics board, he likes to get into that left back kind of pocket and get some space. Haksabanovic likes getting the ball at his feet, likes running at people, likes playing link-up passes, 1-2s, and he wants to play in midfield. So maybe that's something we can watch out for. We finally got to see Ange Postecoglu's Gung-Ho all-out attack, throwing the kitchen sink at it formation. We've seen it once or twice when Giakoumakis was at the squad, but this is the first time we've seen it since As the substitutes rolled on, you really had to pay attention to who was coming on and off, and then watch the shape that we took on the pitch. And we formed a back three of Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, and Starfelt. McGregor stayed on for 90 minutes, as did Daisen Maeda and Kyogo. But Aaron Mooy and Turnbull come on to replenish in midfield, and they basically went on to the roles that they normally do in the team. Rocco Vata was playing on right wing, kind of right wing back. He was really high energy, and we got him on the ball quite a lot. Daisen Maeda was just doing Daisen Maeda things the whole time, and was trying to come on as the battering ram. But Kyogo, we've seen him a few times trying to come into play here and hold the ball up, and he was really ineffectual when the shape went like this. We tried to put him out on the wing at one point, and he looked okay out there, but I don't think he was out there long enough to impact anything. But this was a really big eye-opener for me, for seeing how the manager does attempt to throw the kitchen sink at it. I did find it quite interesting for him to take off O'Reilly in this situation, and I did find it quite interesting that Taylor came off. We didn't see Bernabe come on, because we've seen Bernabe come on before into a left wing position when we have maybe been attacking the final 10-15 minutes of a match. I forget the exact fixture. Maybe one of you guys in the comments can help me out. But no, we didn't do that. On this occasion, it was Vata that came on for that kind of winger, kind of throwing the kitchen sink at it thing. And he threw a great ball in for O. And, if that ball goes in, then we're all talking totally differently about Rocco Vata, O, and the changes that were made. But I think the changes that were made highlight that, the squad is very deep, the squad is very strong. But when you take out Reo, you take out O'Reilly, and if Mooy's not at it, then we don't have any creative midfield in here. And that's why I'm really screaming there for a box-to-box, a real genuine box-to-box midfielder, because Turnbull's good to come and mix things up, and he likes to shoot from distance. He doesn't like to take too many passes and all that kind of thing, and it is what it is. And Mooy's great, right? And if Mooy's on it, then he's brilliant from the bench. But as we've seen against Motherwell, that's not a guarantee. And if that's what you get against Motherwell, what if we need to bring him on in a much higher stakes game? And that's what we get. So we need another person in here to help add this on. I do think O can be a great kind of battering ram to come on here for the last half an hour of games like we've seen to this point, and he had a great energy and a great willingness to go on and really like bash by people and have a real shot at it. But I do think that, again, with no Jota, no Abada, we're asking for Reo Hatate to come in here, and again, he didn't complete anything that we can talk about in any, except for that one big chance that he made for big chance as it's recorded statistically. I felt that it was high energy and all the rest of it, but I didn't really feel that he was really up to it, to be quite honest with you. But 10 out of 10 for effort, 10 out of 10 for energy, and, the guy can develop, of course he can. He's still very, very young, and if the manager's picking him, then I'm always going to back the manager, so fair play. But again, it just felt like this was the real push of the depth at the squad. I'd maybe like to have seen Alistair Johnson doing a bit more of this, but again, I don't know how we could have maybe facilitated that with another substitute or something. But yeah, Alistair Johnson's deliveries have been pretty good, but he filled in a back free role there pretty good, and he was still, where we're attacking, he wasn't really sitting back. He was still out on this wing and supporting as well. But that was a nice little tell that formulating into a back three there is something that the manager wants us to be able to flip to, should it be required, whether it just be in perhaps transition of matches, because we see the team taking these kind of shapes up anyway if we're going and attacking somebody for 5-10 minute spells. But to properly set out the ranks in this way when we're throwing the kitchen sink at it, as it were, is definitely a tell for how he sees the duality of some of these positions and the attributes that the players bring to the squad. We've seen Daizen Maeda play wide of a midfield five. I think it was away to Leipzig or something like that. He played like right wing back or something. I can't remember the exact game again. I'm sure someone in the comments can help me out there. Daizen Maeda's absolute utility here. It's probably a big part of the reason that we do see Daizen subbed off as regular, because we want to be able to do this if we need to, whenever we need to be able to. So keeping guys like him and Kyogo constantly fresh and able for when the time comes seems to be something that might have paid off on this game. It didn't, but the fact that we were able to call upon them for 90 minutes and they were still fresh as a daisy, I didn't see them really tire as the game went on, but it just felt that we lost a bit of structure. Motherwell, once Van Veen scored and the draw was on the cards, they just defended for their lives, and fair play to them. They wasted time like no one has ever wasted time before. And I do feel that, as I say, we missed that guy. Mooy did it a few times. Mooy was in this area for a few balls. He got in between the lines, and that did cause some problems for Motherwell and did create maybe some glimpses of maybe we've got a shot on the cards here or whatever. But I do feel that we really lost a lot here. With throughout the entire match, from the bench, from the start, no Abada, no Jota, no Reo. As soon as the game state changes, when it goes to a draw there, and we're then calling upon the bench for reinforcements, and our normal, really good reinforcements are maybe on the pitch already, guys like Haksabanovic. So as I look ahead to the next season, I'm always thinking about how does the manager push the team on? What progressions do we have? And I think a lot of the stuff we spoke about in the video here definitely foreshadows maybe some of the profiles of some signings that we could see coming this summer, as well as what we might see come Europe next season as well. I hope you've enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and retweet, and all that good stuff. Stay out of trouble, and hail, hail. Catch you on the next one.